Happy Friday, Hokie Nation. Welcome back to another edition of the Friday Q&A for Tech Sideline. I'm Robert Bateman, as always, joined alongside by Chris Coleman, Nick Brown behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, and we're here answering all your burning questions as Virginia Tech is about to face off in their home opener against the Vanderbilt Commodores. You ready to get into things?
Let's do it.
All right, before we get into the questions, be sure to drop any future questions for next week's episode in the comment section below for a chance to be featured on the show. So our first question comes from QCP, who wants to know, what was your view on the end of our half management and how concerned should we be about the 2-minute hurry-up offense? At the end of the first half, it looked like yet again Pry was confused/indecisive before the 2-minute warning on whether to use a timeout, and we ended up leaving 2 timeouts in our pocket and settled for a 57-yard field goal. Also, in both the end of the half and late game situations, our offense looked sluggish, disorganized, and lacked urgency. It almost appeared like they had never practiced that situation based on how poor they looked.
Yeah, sluggish is probably the right word for it. I agree. It's the first game with a new offensive coordinator, so certainly that could have something to do with it. So I'm not gonna throw them under the bus yet. I also think there's something else to it, and I talked about this on the regular pod earlier this week, is the previous drive before the last drive of the first half, Tech had started running the ball more. Like at that point, his accuracy had been all over the place. And if you recall, they also came out in the second half, run. Like at that point, I think they decided if we want to win this game, we can't do it on Drones' arm. It was the accuracy was so inconsistent on Sunday. So I think that was one of those things where you need to throw the ball, really get it down the field. But at that point, they didn't really trust him to throw the ball down the field. And, if you get an interception at that point, you risk giving South Carolina a short field right before the half. And if they can score, they go into the half with the momentum. So I think Tech's strategy there was, let's get it down the field conservatively and see what happens, and then we get the ball first in the second half. And if we can get a field goal right before half, which they did, and then get a field goal or a touchdown on the first drive of the second half, then you're winning the game, right? I think that's what they were thinking about. I think if Drones had been sharp and accurate, they might have approached that with a different strategy. But yes, that is definitely something to monitor going forward.
Do you think with John Love being as good as he is, it almost lets Brent Pry say, hey, we don't necessarily have to go for it here, because it feels like if you get into the opponent's half, John Love will just put it away? Yeah,
and I also think, how well Tech's defense is playing factors into it as well. You can win a game of field goals with John Love, of course. Ideally, you would rather score touchdowns, but so much of that stuff is feel. You might go into a game with an idea of what you want to do, and this is our plan in this situation, but if situations in the game make you feel like we can't do that, then you're going to kind of change your plan on a dime. That might have been what happened on Sunday, but I agree, it's not something that I'm all over right now, but it is something to monitor going forward if it continues to happen.
It's first game of the year, so the expectations are still out in the air. Our next question comes from Ranger Sam, who was curious, what is the margin of error for this offense? Seems like we're repeating this inability to overcome any mistake, negative play, or penalty miscue. One would think we would finally rise above this glass ceiling. Thoughts?
It's when you think about it, in some ways the margin of error is smaller because in the past, I think Tech had a better chance, obviously, with Tootin to get chunk plays in the running game. I mean, they could create big plays in the running game. So, you had a chance to overcome some mistakes offensively because Tootin at any point could break off a 60-yarder. This offense seems to lack that this year. They made some plays down the field in the passing game, but overall, it just didn't feel like a big play offense. And if you can't hit chunk plays, it's harder to overcome mistakes. On the other hand, I think the defense is better, and they're more likely to keep you in a game, as Sunday showed. The offense didn't do a whole lot, but still at the start of the fourth quarter, that was what was the score? 10-8. I mean, you're a field goal away from taking the lead with the offense making a myriad of mistakes throughout the course of the game. So in some ways, I feel like they have a smaller margin of error, and in some ways, I feel like they have a larger margin of error.
All right. Well, our next question comes from Harrison Reed 1226, who brought up, you've mentioned a couple times how you were unsure of the match between Kyron and Monty. If you could build a QB that would mesh better with Monty's style of offense using traits of past Hokies quarterbacks, how would you do that? Oddly enough, my immediate thought is Ryan Willis and his ability to throw the fade ball.
Willis is one of those guys, whatever offense he's running in. I think if Ryan Willis had been Virginia Tech's quarterback on Saturday or Sunday, they either would have won the game or they would have lost by like 3 touchdowns. Like he was that guy, man. When he was on, but sometimes he would go out there and have a turnover, and you're like, what in the world was that guy thinking? That said, very talented player. There was a point he was on the active roster of the Chicago Bears. Not that the Bears have had great quarterbacks to play throughout the years, but he was on an active roster in the NFL, which shows his talent level. I probably think Brewer, a taller Brewer, maybe like Willis's size with Brewer's just pure passing instincts. He was a guy who made decisive, quick decisions. His timing was very good. His accuracy was good on those shorter throws. He was a Texas guy. I mean, I know Drones is a Texas guy, but Drones didn't really come up in that style of offense, and Brewer did. So I think like a bigger Michael Brewer would be the ideal quarterback for this offense.
I've never asked you this, but do you think that location of where guys are coming out of high school really impacts like the style of football they're playing?
Yeah. And in some parts of the country, there just aren't maybe specialists. Like Texas has a bunch of quarterbacks coaches, man, and I don't know that Virginia has that. Like you just don't see quarterbacks coming out of the state of Virginia anymore. I wrote an article on that a couple of summers ago, and there are various reasons why. I think, but it used to be there'd be a starting quarterback coming out of the 757 every other year, and now it's been like you got to go back to like Taj Boyd at Clemson, which was like 15 years ago or something like that. So I think regional coaching has something to do with it. I think certain styles of offense start up in certain parts of the country, and it takes it a while for them to spread out. There are certain parts of Virginia where maybe like they haven't produced very good offensive linemen over the years. Some of that is random. Some of that, it could be like the quality of the positional coaches in that region.
Gotcha. Well, our final question comes from Ninja Boy 360, who wants to know.
What a name.
That's a great name. After week 1, what narratives do you think changed? Hokies and opponents.
Well, Florida State's good.
Yeah.
Well, at least I think they're good. Assuming Alabama doesn't like completely stink, then Florida State is at the very least a much improved football team. I have I picked Tech to go 7-5 this year with a win over Florida State, and so that means automatically I'm back down to 6-6. I also originally picked Virginia Tech to beat Vanderbilt, and in my preview this week I reversed that and picked Vanderbilt. Does that mean I'm down to 5-7 for Virginia Tech? If so, the narrative has changed there as far as the record goes. But I think amongst opponents, most definitely the biggest narrative so far is Florida State. Yeah, Casta, that's the thing. He hasn't been able to he doesn't go out there and miss a bunch of games. He's tough. He plays through it, but like the second half of the season, he doesn't seem to be as effective. And Virginia Tech, the last couple of times they played Boston College, have caught them in the second half of the season. Not that it's mattered, because Virginia Tech has put up like 48 points and 600 yards of offense in both of those games. So even if he had been healthy, it wouldn't have mattered. So Florida State is definitely one to watch. Nobody else. I'm not sure anybody else really stands out to me at this point, because some teams Tech plays didn't really play anybody that first week. And as far as the Hokies themselves, I don't really see anything that like shocked me or surprised me in week 1. I think if anything, the defense was a little bit better than I thought it would be, and the offense was a little bit worse. But I thought the defense would be ahead of the offense, and the questions I had about Virginia Tech offensively before the game are the same questions I have now.
So what week in the year do you think you'll have a confident read on what this Virginia Tech team is?
That's a good question. I think if they play great against Vanderbilt and they went out there and blew them out, I think we'd have a pretty good idea. I think that would probably tell us that South Carolina's a good team. If they play poor against Vanderbilt and they lose, I think we'll know. If it's like a close win, maybe we've learned that they've crossed that threshold. But at the same time, you're going to see a lot more close games throughout the course of the year. I think we'll know for sure after. Is it NC State the 5th game?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we'll know for sure after then. I don't know. I don't think we'll learn much from Wofford and Old Dominion. At least I hope we don't. If we do, it's not. It's going to be bad learning experience because Virginia Tech should go out and beat those teams, particularly Wofford, of course, with relative ease. But I would say NC State for sure.
Well, before we get out of here, Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company. Manage your money with ease. First Bank and Trust Company's industry-leading digital banking experience provides you with all the essential tools to manage your fully banking relationship from one convenient platform. Access digital banking through the online banking login on desktop and tablet devices or on the go through the First Bank and Trust Company mobile banking app. Who you choose to bank with can make all the difference. Choose First Bank and Trust Company with over 30 locations in Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Well, that's all we got for you this week. Be sure to check out Tech Sideline on all of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we've got it. And also, if you want more on Virginia Tech's upcoming matchup with Vandy, check out the rest of our YouTube page. We had a podcast yesterday, buy or sells, if you're looking for some betting lines. Whatever else you're looking for, I promise we probably have it. That'll do it for us this week. A big thank you to Chris Coleman, as always, and Nick Brown behind the set. I'm Robert Bateman, and we'll see you guys next Friday.